All right, welcome everybody to my latest video. In this one, we're going to have fun with geography. And to do that, we're going to start with a data set that I think lends itself really well to that kind of analysis. And this is coming from the city of New York. They have a lot of information around taxis, for-hire vehicles, things like that. So we're going to take this information and download it from their website and just run it through a little bit of code and use pantab, which is the library that can help us translate data frame libraries into Tableau. And you'll see that we'll be able to take care of some of this geography data and get it into a dashboard that looks like this. Okay, so once we have it here, you get all the nice interactivity of Tableau. You can zoom in, zoom out, pick different metrics, scale the colors, whatever you want. The world is your oyster. I would say generally it's kind of difficult to get the data into this format first. And once you have it here, it's fantastic. But again, in this video, we'll see how to kind of make that process a little bit easier. So with that said, let's jump right in. Okay, so the first step here is to download some data. Now, I'm not going to do this because I already have this locally. But what I did for this video is I came down here and I just grabbed the yellow taxi trip records parquet from January 2024. You can grab as many parquet files as you want, put them into a data frame of your choosing, and use that for this analysis. But just to keep things simple, I'm only using this one yellow taxi data set. The second thing that you need for this is to download the shape file from this link. Now, if you were to download this, it's a zip file, and you should unzip it to some location where you'll see all these files, with the main shape file being here. So I'll show you how to interact with that in a little bit, but that's where you get basically the geographic information that you need for this analysis. So, assuming you've downloaded those files, you've put them somewhere, we're going to use a couple libraries, and once again, just to save some time, I've already installed these. And I'm using Conda, so it's up to you. If you're a Python developer, use whichever method you want. But there are basically three libraries that I installed here, which was geopandas and, well, pantab would be the second one. I'm sorry, I also installed IPython here. Those are both installable via Conda. I already have that, so I'm not going to run that. Pantab is actually not installable via Conda as of the writing of this video. If you'd like to help out with that, please reach out on the pantab GitHub page. But again, after that, I did a pip install pantab within my environment, and now voila, I have all the libraries that I want to work with. So skipping over that, let's jump right into the code and talk about this in some detail. First things first, I'm going to grab geopandas as GPD, pandas as PD, why not? And then lastly, pantab as PT. So there's the three libraries that we're going to use here. What I want to do next is read in the parquet file that has the yellow trip taxi data that I've downloaded from this website. Again, this is this information here. I'm going to go ahead and read that through pandas, and all of a sudden I now have a data frame that looks like this, right? So I have all these data types. You can see we have pickup location IDs, drop off. There's a lot of metrics here around tips, tolls, total amount. A lot of information here. So along with that, the next thing that we want to do is actually grab the zone information. So I'm going to use geopandas to read this shape file. And let me move this up here a little bit more. We have this shape file that we're going to read in. Just using that GPD read file. And if you were to look at this file in geopandas, you'll see this geometry column that basically tells geopandas and other geographic tools how to actually draw things. Okay. Now, this, if you look at this in more detail, we're not going to talk a ton about geopandas because there's a lot to be said there. But one thing that you should be aware of when you're working with geographic geometry data is a lot of them have these CRS, coordinate reference system. And in this particular case, I'm looking at a reference system for New York, right? So you can even look this up, EPSG, I'll grab that number, 2263. What you'll see is this really covers, you know, New York, Long Island areas around there. Tableau, when you're trying to communicate geographic data with it, does not want you to communicate with that kind of reference system. In fact, what Tableau wants is for you to give latitude and longitude as part of that, you know, kind of based around the equator and the meridian. So these references are not going to work because they're basically drawing on this New York area. So what we could do instead, really quick there, is actually change that to use more traditional latitude, longitude by calling this toCRS method and just saying I want to project it onto the longitude and latitude. If you run that and look at this again, you kind of see numbers that look a little bit more like traditional latitude and longitude numbers here, which is what Tableau wants. Okay, so Tableau is actually going to expect this type of information in string form. So we'll do that in the next step here, but just be aware of that when you're working with geographic data. Again, Tableau really wants latitude and longitude. So once you have all that done, really all you have to do from there is write the information that we've collected to a hyper file. So I'm going to go ahead and write through this frames to hyper command a table called data, which is using the data that we looked at above, which has all the information around individuals or groups being picked up. And then I'm going to write this zones table, which has the data containing the geographic information and how to draw it. This call is pretty standard. The only thing that you need to add with your frame to hyper or frames to hyper call with pantab is a geocolumns argument. So with this argument, you basically say, yeah, I know that I've passed this as a string in this above, but actually I need Tableau to interpret that as a geographic column. Okay, so it's a little wonky. You would hope that you wouldn't need to jump through those kind of hoops to get there. But unfortunately, that type of tooling is not completely built out. So you have to be responsible for, again, getting a string with latitude and longitude pairs and telling Tableau when you write to it that that in fact is a geographic column. Okay, so that's it. I've gotten this data. I've written it out to a file. I can jump right into Tableau. And what I'll do here is open this file now on the Tableau side. It's synced over to my virtual machine, so we'll give this a second to open. But once this pops up, you'll see the same data we just wrote, and then we'll be able to link it together, link those two tables together, and just start working with the data interactively. Okay, so we see data and zones over here. I'm just going to go ahead and drop both them into my little view up here. Where did my zones go? Okay, great. And then I'm going to say, how should I link these two together? So you can make a choice here if you want to look at pickup or drop off locations. I'm just going to pick the pickup location and match that to the location ID from the zones table. I can jump over here and immediately start working with this in my Tableau dashboard. So I'm going to pull in my geometry data. I have all this nice information here. I'm going to add the location ID as a detail up here. Once I do that, I can pick any of these metrics and really start color coding my map. So let's say I want to look at the total amount. I'll go ahead and grab that, drop it into the color. And this is maybe not super interesting. It looks like this area down here really dominates the visual. You can see that clearly. I think what helps from there is to add the zone and drop that in. And you can see what that is. Well, that's JFK Airport. Okay, and you see this other one up here that's kind of dark is LaGuardia as well. So you may or may not want that. I mean, it makes sense that an airport is really busy as a pickup location and likely as a drop-off as well. But maybe we don't want to dominate this visual as much. We could exclude these airports if we wanted to. Or another thing that I'm going to do is just scale things logarithmically. So instead of just doing a straight sum, we'll take the natural log and go ahead and drop that in there. all of a sudden I get a little bit more information in my visual here. And I could still take that total amount and add it back to the tooltip. So I still get the same amount of information in the tooltip that I had before, but now I could see just a little bit more detail in the map. You know, you could see all the different zones up here. Obviously, Manhattan is really busy relatively to everywhere else, but you know, you could start to see as you go through different zones and different neighborhoods a little bit more detail with that logarithmic graphing. Of course, this data set, you can do so many things with it. You can look at distances, total amounts, passengers, whatever it is you want to see is totally up to you in your analysis. But through a pretty simple set of steps, we were able to take this data and put it into this form and get it into a dashboard super easy. So that is pretty awesome, I think. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, always feel free to drop a comment, or if you have any technical issues, you can always drop a note on the Pantab GitHub. Thanks for watching my video, and until the next time.